Next, we have Colombia's The Blue Lagoon, which brought in $58 million. This is the movie that whenever you went to Blockbuster, you really wanted to get it, but there was no way in hell you were going to ask your parents. Well, I'm going to watch that movie for the first time. We'll see what I think. I don't think I'm going to like it. I think it's going to be exploitative. I think it's going to be very icky. So I predict I'm going to give this a 1. This will be the worst movie, in my opinion, of the 10 that we're looking at. First off, the tagline has more words than Brooke Shield and Christopher Atkins had to memorize for this entire movie. Here's the tagline, so you don't have to look it up yourself. A story of natural love in big print. 2 children, a boy and a girl, are shipwrecked on a lost tropical island. When their only adult friend dies, they must survive, somehow alone. Nature is kind to them. They live off the bounty of the jungle and the lagoon. The boy grows tall, the girl beautiful. They swim naked, Notice that they don't say the girl grows beautiful. Just let that sink in. They swim naked over coral reefs. Well, that's going to get butts in seats. They run in a cathedral of trees, and the warm winds, the tropic moon, the silk sand conspire to enchant them. When their love happens, it is natural as the sea itself and as powerful. Love as nature intended it to be. The Blue Lagoon. What the tagline should have said was, boy and girl get naked and do the Humpty Dumpty. That's it. That's all you had to say. You would have gotten the same demographic into your movie. I'm going to be super unbiased. I didn't want to watch this film. I had no desire. I don't want to watch a naked 14-year-old frolicking around in the jungle. That's not really my cup of tea. I'm sorry. But I will say the nudity was not as explicit or as frequent as I thought it would be. I'll get back to that in a couple minutes. First, I didn't mind the opening. The opening was, what the fuck was the opening? They're on a boat. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what kind of boat. Are they pirates? You got these 2 kids, which I read are supposed to be cousins. I did not get that through this film. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. But the 2 kids are looking at essentially pornography, black and white photos of naked women, not engaged in any acts necessarily, but I'm pretty sure back in the 1800s, it would be considered pornography. So then you've got Mr. Buttons, Patty Buttons. Hey, I'm your Uncle Buttons. You could call me Patty, like Paddington, or Patty Waddy Ding Dong. Gross, right? So Patty Buttons starts spanking them when he catches them going through his stuff. I was looking at what other people said about this movie. The only reviews for this movie were coming from guys that were kind of creepers. They talked a lot about the nudity, and they didn't really condemn it. But I did find one guy, his channel is called European Reviews. This is the only review he did. I actually liked what he said. He pointed out that Patty Buttons evacuated the kids from the boat when they really didn't necessarily need to. The boat might not have actually sunk. It was a little spark that they called a fire. And he essentially, European Reviews, his take is that this man kidnapped the kids. And when I look at it through that scope, I think he's right. And I do think that the script conveniently cut out or worked around all the times that Patty let the kids play with his buttons. And you will never be able to convince me that that wasn't happening with Brooke Shields at the tender age of 14. Gross. At least now, we go the opposite way and we will tend to cast older actors to play younger roles. Fine, that's great. You're of age, you make your own decisions. We will make our decisions if we want to watch the decisions you make. I wonder how much input poor Brooke Shields had in making this film. Now, they say that you don't see any nudity of hers, but instead they glued her hair to her her buttons, as she calls them, and people seem okay with that. They're like, oh, okay, so at least we're not actually seeing her fully nude. Well, first of all, you have her stripping down naked almost every day on set, and somebody, a makeup artist, the director, somebody on the crew has to actually touch her button to press the I'm feeling how large mine are. I've got a lot of work to do, but to press her hair against it to make it stick. And no. Now, I do know that Brooke Shields advocates for child stars, for rights for them. I would like to look a little bit more into that. And I'm sure that her movement was inspired in part by this film. And I think she looks extremely uncomfortable. Yes, she won some Razzies for the worst acting, but I think the Razzies should have gone to the director because she's a kid. She doesn't know what good acting is from bad acting at this point. She was probably cast based off of her looks and looks alone. So I am not going to fault this 14-year-old girl at all for giving a really bad performance as she's surrounded by men, but naked, almost probably 12 hours a day. So Brooke Shields generously gets a pass. I'm not going to judge her acting. And besides, even if the acting was good, the sound artist was horrible. All the dialogue, especially on the island, sounded like it was ADR. Like all the dialogue was filmed after the filming. In a studio, isolated from the parrots and the ocean waves. The dialogue sounded like it came from indoors. And it just sounded sloppy and trashy. Now, when you look at a movie where he's stranded on an island, you have to tell the movie, you have to be very specific with the quote-unquote chapters of the film as it progresses. You have to have characters learn something or discover something and then be able to carry that thread through in order to still play off at the end of a deserted island movie. Obviously, I think the one that did it best was no doubt Castaway that came out in the year 2000. But in the Blue Lagoon, they didn't have the redeeming quality or the originality of a Wilson to play counterpart to these kids. But instead of having an original device to help elevate this story along, the screenwriters and the director instead just went for the low-hanging fruit, pun, and just let these kids play weddings and play house and dance around and discover each other's blooming bodies. This is not only gross, but it's easy. It's too easy. We don't need another movie about how to grow up. And we definitely don't need a movie about two naked kids on an island and how they would interact with one another. We've already read Adam and Eve. We already know how a boy and a girl are going to get along together in isolation. It is not that difficult to figure out. So why they had to make an hour-and-a-half movie out of this is absolutely beyond me. It's like, how can we make a movie without having to dispense any brain power or creativity or even actual artistry to tell a story about what it would be like to be on a deserted island? Now, I would have been totally fine if the relations were off screen. It would have been a little less yucky, but instead the director just shoves your face in it for a really long time. But again, the nudity is not graphic, but it is highly insinuated, and it is very much happening on set. Oh, before I forget, you know who's in this? Mr. Feeney. Mr. Feeney isn't doing anything gross, thankfully. He's just on a boat trying to find his kid, his son. Mr. Feeney! I thought that was fun. It took me a minute to realize it was him. When I look at the film without bias, meaning I'm not going to judge it for having teenage or preteen nudity, I think that shouldn't have happened. I think the director, having wanted to make a movie as natural as possible, should have just gone into porn or go visit Jeffrey on his island. It's gross and it's unnecessary. There are so many stories, books, adaptations, screenplays, movies telling a coming-of-age story that are done so much better, with so much more creativity and love and affection and clothes. I think the movie was too easy. I think the gigantic tagline on the poster was meant to entice creepy old men to go see this movie. That's how this movie became one of the top 10 grossing films of 1980. I truly believe that. Because there's nothing in this film that stands out. Go to Rotten Tomatoes This is from actual critics, folks. 12% from the critics. 12%. Now, admittedly, it is only 26 critics, but I actually think that's good. I don't want thousands of people to go see this movie. I shouldn't have even watched it. I think it's just, I'm sad that I did. The only redeeming quality of this film was the cinematography when it wasn't focused on the naked children. Larry Wegner from Out Front Magazine, might as well call it Full Frontal Magazine, am I right? He says, "The Blue Lagoon is a lovely story, but even more, it's a story about love." You are gross, dude. Like, even Roger Ebert, whom I disagree with a lot, he said The Blue Lagoon is the dumbest movie of the year. I disagree a lot with Emmanuel Levy. I don't see his review, but he gave it a rotten score. So it's good to see that critics weren't completely on board with this movie. But let's take a look at what the audience says about The Blue Lagoon. Stephanie M. gives it 1 out of 5 stars and says, "I think there is way too much nudity for people who look like they're 14 years old. And the ending is a bit dull, and you need to learn how to spell there." No, they don't look like they're 14. I believe Christopher was 18, but poor Brooke Shields was 14. All right, Isabella P. gives it 5 out of 5. This is interesting. A lot of people are missing the point of the movie. It says it right there on the poster. It is a story about love, how nature intended it to be. Oh, there's the tagline right there. But because it doesn't talk about naked kids, that's not going to get as many people into the seats, hence giving it a spot in the top 10 grossing films of 1980. Isabella goes on, "It's simple and shows the beauty of just living, which I, for one, really enjoyed." You know another way to really enjoy the simplicity of living? Living. And not watching this movie. This movie, surprisingly, I cannot say it was boring. It did have good pacing. Cinematography and pacing. The pacing was well done. I actually credit the editing for this movie. Amina A. gives it 1 star out of 5 and says that The Blue Lagoon is a silly, erotic fantasy that will hold attention for a while and then disappoint on all accounts. The ending was terrible, not a typical tragedy, but so much emotion left hanging. Too much to be explained at the end, don't watch. They talk about, if you eat this berry, you'll die. There's a lot of just on-the-nose analogies to like death and life and birth. And like the kids themselves, like when Patty Buttons was grooming them, he danced with them a lot. It was a lot of peacemaking, a lot of lovemaking, I'm sure, off camera. It wasn't like Lord of the Flies. It wasn't an actual survival movie. Because not until they started fighting later on in the movie, it was just all hugs and butterflies. It wasn't until much later on that, he started like spearing the fish and starting to have violent thoughts and images. I just don't think it would take 10 years to have violent thoughts when you're stranded on a deserted island. And also, what is with them never having a run-in with the natives for 10 plus years? Come on. Anyway, to go back to the berries, Patty says that you'll die. It'll be a deep sleep. So it's like the writers were very unsure. Does it kill you? Does it put you to sleep for a long time? Does it knock you out? So of course at the end, the berries come back. The whole family eats them, Hitler style. And that's precisely the moment, as in all great classic 80s movies, the father finds his son and his new family in their boat, drifting aimlessly in the middle of the Pacific. But the question is, are they dead or are they asleep? Is it left ambiguous, or do I think it's ambiguous? Are they dead? Because the ending line, they call it out, they're asleep. But does that mean like dead in the ground? Who knows and who cares, right? Vidyet L, or I, gives it half a star. I'm just going to skip to the end. He says, "Only recommend watching to get in the mood or role play." This is why I support free speech and hate speech. Because if you say enough gross things like this, then you're building a case against yourself. What you say can be self-incriminating, and I think that can be a really good thing, so we can know who to arrest. Oh, all right. Another gross one, Cody Zamboni Z gives it 2.5 stars. Movie is stupid, dumb, poorly acted, goes nowhere. That said, Brooke Shields is so stunningly beautiful. She keeps me watching. I will end on that. We have 8 films left to go in the year 1980. The next one will be Smokey and the Bandit 2. I just watched the first one, so I can kind of know what's going on in the sequel. I will let you know what I think of that movie. We will discuss it. What did you think of the Blue Lagoon? Is it gross? Do you like it? Is it beautiful? Let me know down below. Until next time, keep watching movies, keep loving each other, but not in the gross Blue Lagoon kind of way. And I'll see you in the next video.